Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel, where we delve into the mind of a villain. In today's entry, we'll be taking a look at the terror of a music teacher that is Terence Fletcher, the antagonist in the film Whiplash, a drama exploring the price of success in the music world and the extent of how far one is willing to go. A highly unconventional professor whose teaching methods are controversial and detrimental to the mental health of his students, Fletcher's character is mostly portrayed through his relationship with his student, Andrew. Fletcher works as a professor at the prestigious Schaefer Conservatory of Music. It is evident from the very start that he is not your average professor. He storms into a room and instills fear in his students with his commanding presence. His communication style is vulgar, disrespectful, and insulting, which is seen mostly through his comments to the students in his jazz band. Intimidated by him, but also eager to succeed in the music industry, the students put up with his insults. Fletcher is a perfectionist professor who is mean, hostile, and even physically abusive. He shows no empathy and belittles his students. He not only humiliates Andrew and other students who play out of tune, but also attacks them in his frantic state of mind. He throws a chair at Andrew, slaps him a couple times, yells at him, and humiliates him by making derogatory comments on his personal life and calling him stupid. It is no surprise that his students are psychologically abused. The composition students practice with Fletcher is called Whiplash. The name itself is very symbolic because Fletcher figuratively whips his students with his harsh words and lashes them into a state of fear and frenzy. Therefore, Whiplash becomes the sound of insanity and the symbol of his abuse. Playing mind games with students and toying with their emotions, especially with Andrew's, is also Fletcher's specialty. He chooses Andrew to be the drummer in the studio band because he sees a drive in him, an intense desire to succeed. At first, his approach to Andrew is friendly and inspires trust. However, having learnt about Andrew's personal tragedy, which was that his mom left him when he was a baby, Fletcher abuses this knowledge and humiliates him in front of the band. Fletcher asks for sweat, tears, and blood from his students, especially the ones he deems worthy of his time and the ones who can become the next Bird, a renowned musician. He makes Andrew feel incompetent and shatters his self-esteem so that he forces him to practice until his hands start to bleed. He justifies his violent methods by telling the students about the Charlie Parker story. He claims that Parker never would have achieved the success he did if it hadn't been for Joe Jones, who threw a cymbal at him because he lost a beat. Supposedly, this prompted Parker to practice more and to eventually become a famous musician. Fletcher wants the selected students to sacrifice for greatness. While he doesn't say that, his behavior indicates it. He expects students to practice all the time and to strive for excellence at the expense of their private lives, health, and sanity. The example is Andrew, who distances himself from his family, breaks up with his girlfriend, feels anxious, and seems to be going mad. The psychological torture Fletcher inflicts on his students scars them for life. Fletcher's insane methods, designed both to destroy a student's self-respect and provide an opportunity for them to be successful while toying heartlessly with the victim, are not easy to understand. He sometimes seems genuinely oblivious to other people's emotions and how this behavior affects them. His former student, Sean Casey, suffered from anxiety and depression and hanged himself. Sean was obviously completely psychologically destroyed by Fletcher's behavior. While he succeeded in becoming a first-class musician thanks to Fletcher, he did it at the expense of his mental health. When Fletcher hears the news, although he lies that Sean died in a car accident, not wanting to admit that he is responsible for his death, he is shaken. He tells his students about him and even sheds a tear. We don't get a lot of personal information about Fletcher, but from what is shown, we can deduce that he might be a decent human being in his personal life. An example would be his encounter with a friend and his daughter, when he talks to his daughter in an affectionate way and hugs his friend. He also shows a human, sympathetic attitude when he talks about Sean's death. His conversation with Andrew in the bar also depicts a different Fletcher, respectful, honest, and even funny. His insanity is linked only to his work and his manic mission. Ultimately, Fletcher fails as a professor and as a human being. His students become dropouts like Tanner, go crazy like Andrew, or commit suicide like Sean. He doesn't instill love for music and inspiration in his students. He doesn't provide support and encouragement. His preoccupation with greatness becomes an obsession that clouds his reason and ability to see his students as wonderful, talented human beings with different needs. His misconceptions and his abusive personality destroys lives and leads to madness. Fletcher has a God complex, which is reflected in his inflated arrogance and his need to shape a student into something he wants them to be. He doesn't acknowledge other people's perspective and perception of reality. Fletcher only acknowledges his tempo as he keeps repeating in class. He regards almost everyone around him with contempt, thinking he has the right to judge who is good enough and who isn't. Why does Fletcher behave so inhumanely? He himself provides an answer. His sadistic behavior and insane request are justified in his mind in his attempt to create the next Charlie Parker. He admits his self-imposed mission to Andrew. Truth is, I don't think people understood what I was doing at Schaefer. I wasn't there to conduct. I was there to push people beyond what's expected of them. I believe that it is an absolute necessity. Otherwise, we are depriving the world of the next Louis Armstrong or the next Charlie Parker. Fletcher adds, there are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job. He laments today's jazz music, stating that it is dying. Its quality is mediocre, so now it's all Starbucks jazz. There are no great musicians because there is no one to push them to strive for excellence. His professional philosophy and his mission imply he has to be another Jones to give the necessary push to the next Charlie Parker, no matter the cost. Excellence comes before everything else for him. As the film progresses, Fletcher's ruthless behavior causes Andrew to become mad and violent, and the altercation on stage during the competition leads to his dismissal from Schaefer. After Andrew's family presses charges against Fletcher, since Sean's family is poor and can't afford the lawsuit, Fletcher is fired from the conservatory. When they meet in the bar where Fletcher plays the piano, the former professor once again gives Andrew an opportunity to perform on stage as the drummer in his orchestra, ironically as part of his revenge. Fletcher is surprised that the humiliated Andrew comes back and continues to play the drums in a wild ecstasy of complete surrender to music, which again makes his hands bleed. Fletcher finally gives his approval. He is finally satisfied with Andrew's performance because, after all, he might have made his Charlie Parker. The mission Fletcher undertook at Schaefer seems to be finally accomplished. The moment they share on the stage with their locked eyes binds Andrew and Fletcher into an ecstasy of music and insanity. This scene proves that achievement of artistic genius is inherently linked to some form of altered perception, or even madness. In the end, what makes Terence Fletcher morally questionable? He was a self-centered, self-righteous tyrant who justified his atrocious methods with the noble end goal of creating music talent, without giving thought to the psychological trauma his students would suffer. So what do you think of Fletcher, folks? Let me know in the comments below, along with other characters you'd like to see here. Thanks for watching, folks. If you like this video, subscribe to see more entries like these, and you can check out other characters covered here.